Mark, do you think is the byproduct of their parents' our generation now, assuming that loving God with all your heart was the only thing that mattered?
Right.
Rather than heart, soul, mind,
Yeah.
and strength. And so we have this intellectually empty faith,
Yes.
contrasting now believing that faith and science are somehow at odds. And now this is just the natural byproduct of that. Or how much of this is what Ray talks about, they go through a second season of testing. And now they're testing, and we have to encourage that testing. So what's the difference between testing and deconversion, and how much of that is our fault?
I think, I mean, how much of it's our fault is hard to gauge, but I think when the church is constantly on about just how you feel versus how you think. Even if you look out the youth group, what does your youth group talk about in a given calendar year? If they're not engaging some of these deep questions of the mind that kids are going through, and they're just doing, stick a licorice up your nose and do Chubby Bunny the whole time, then you're going to lose the kid. When they start to think, they take a first year English class, or philosophy or psychology, and then they're out. And they're like, oh, the only thing I equate church with is singing sentimental songs about my feelings versus having anyone engage me on the level of thought. And then I read one Plato book or one intro to philosophy or one anything, and I'm out because I realize church is for that, and I'm a thinker. And so I think a big part of it's like trying to fuse together what you said. Let's go after the discipleship of the mind. We were talking about this, you were sharing at church. Like, Christians were the ones that started the universities. Christians were the ones that had the respect in the world of art, thought, philosophy, psychology, the sciences. Even today, pointing out to kids that the science departments of universities are filled with theists. It's the humanities departments that are filled with the atheists. So people who are studying, going into the philosophy even, or going into the sciences, studying DNA, studying the stars, studying organic chemistry, they're going, oh my gosh, there's DNA, there's a code written, it's the language of God. All of this, these are pointers to God, and it's the humanities departments that are like, there's no God, you shouldn't believe in that. And so we got to start going, guys, actually, if you study philosophy, if you study science, there's all kinds of reasons to believe in God. These aren't separate things. You got to fuse these things together.
So isn't this in some way, and maybe all the storms are this way, that the storms are scary, especially for parents, and there's negative aspects, but there's opportunity within that. And so as this storm is hitting our kids, it should be causing us as parents to take our faith seriously.
Yes.
To double down on understanding it, of making a faith really our own. But then also the idea of, all right, you want to test this? Let's test it, but let's test it together.
Right.
Let's pursue after this together to figure out, are the words of Jesus accurate or not?
Yes.
Because I think a lot of the deconversion is, I'm watching an interview with Katy Perry the other day, grew up in the church, right? And she said, well, I don't really have that type of faith anymore.
Right.
And then she talked about how she's into everything, right? Well, that sounds great. It's illogical.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus cannot just be an option, right?
Yes.
Either he was true or he wasn't.
Yeah.
And so
any road will get you to God.
Yeah.
It's just like going, okay, I can dial any number I want and your phone rings.
Right.
Okay, it just doesn't make
But to come
it
alongside
doesn't
it.
intellectually hold water.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Right.